Looking at this satisfyingly balanced shot, with repeated patterns across the screen and static camera movement, few would have guessed that this work belongs to the Indonesian cinema. In fact, this is the work of Indonesian director Ertanto Roby Suriskam, whose use of interesting and poetic visual composition techniques, such as frame within a frame, makes for a stunning cinematography experience for the audience. This is Ave Mariam. In Ave Mariam, we are introduced to a poignant narrative that navigates the complex interplay between love, faith, and self-discovery. The film follows Mariam, a devout Catholic nun in her 40s, who actually came from a Muslim family but converted to Catholicism. In 1980, having become a Catholic, she moved to Ambarawa, Semarang to work as a religious sister at St. Stanislaus Grisonte Church. Mariam's work involves showering elderly sisters, cleaning and preparing meals, all very mundane, until one day, the sisters receive the announcement that the current pastor is being replaced by a new pastor who is younger, called Yosef, who is actually the foster child of one of the sisters. After Yosef's arrival, Mariam finds herself entangled in the forbidden love affair with the young priest. Through their relationship, Mariam must grapple with her own identity and sense of duty, leading her on a journey of introspection and transformation. A recurring visual technique in the film is the use of intimate framing, which emphasizes the emotional intensity and personal connection between the characters. The use of long shots as well as static camera movement plays an important role in shaping the visual storytelling and setting the tone of the film. Long shots are frequently used throughout the film to establish the setting and provide context for the characters' interactions within the convent. For instance, the opening scenes depicting Mariam doing her daily duties in the nunnery employ long shots to convey the vastness and quietude of her surroundings. It also allows the audience to absorb the visual details of the setting, such as the muted color palette and architectural features, adding depth to the storytelling. The camera also remains mostly fixed and unmoving in many scenes, capturing the characters and their interactions from a steady, unchanging perspective. This approach creates a sense of calmness and stability, reflecting the stillness of the environment and the structural routine nature of Mariam's life in the convent. The static camera also allows the audience to focus on the characters' interactions and emotions, without distractions from unnecessary movement. In scenes where Mariam and Yosef share intimate moments, the static camera heightens the intensity of their interactions by allowing the audience to linger on their expressions and body language. This fixed perspective also adds to the tension and emotional weight of the scene, as the audience observes the characters' struggles and unspoken desires. The static camera invites you to observe the scenes as if you were witnessing them firsthand, almost as a silent participant. If we focus on the shot compositions in Ave Mariam, there are several key techniques and principles that stand out. These compositional approaches are used thoughtfully throughout the film to enhance storytelling and draw the audience's attention to specific moments and emotions. The director often places characters at the center of the frame, particularly during moments of introspection and emotional depth. For example, in the confession scene at the end of the movie, Mariam is positioned centrally within the confessional booth. This composition emphasizes her vulnerability and the weight of a confession. It draws the audience to focus directly to her, highlighting the intensity of the moment. The rule of thirds is used effectively in scenes that involve dialogue and character interaction. By placing the characters along the lines of the grid, the director creates a sense of balance and visual interest. For instance, in scenes where Mariam and Yosef share a quiet conversation, they are often positioned along the left or right third of the frame. It creates a natural flow and harmony within the shot, while also allowing room for visual elements such as the background or foreground, to add depth. The golden ratio is subtly used in some of the film's architectural shots, such as the convent's chapel or Mariam's room. The placement of characters or elements often follows the golden spiral, creating aesthetically pleasing compositions that enhance the film's visual appeal. While it is not a strict compositional principle like the others, the use of frame within frame is a recurring visual technique in the film. Doorways, windows, and other architectural elements create natural frames around characters, adding depth and complexity to the composition. For instance, in the scene where Mariam stands in the doorway, the frame within frame emphasizes her isolation and the confines of a religious life. Foreground framing is used effectively in a scene where Mariam watches Yosef rehearse with the orchestra. The camera frames her through the foliage of the wrought iron window, adding layers to the composition and creating a sense of depth. This visual approach immerses the audience in Mariam's contemplative journey as she navigates the tranquil yet confined spaces of the convent. Symmetry is evident in the scenes set within the convent, such as the hallway lined with arches and pillars. This creates a sense of order and reverence, reflecting the structured life Mariam leads. Reflections are used in moments of introspection, such as when Mariam gazes into a mirror, providing insight into her inner turmoil and adding visual depth to the scene. These compositional techniques enhance the visual storytelling by adding layers of meaning and emotional resonance. The director also employs visual devices to enhance the storytelling and deepen the emotional resonance of the film, such as patterns. Throughout the film, patterns are used in the mise en scène, such as the repetitive lines of the convent architecture. These patterns create a sense of order and discipline, reflecting the structured and regimented life Mariam leads and her internal struggles, while also providing a satisfying and beautiful visual. The film employs a muted color palette, dominated by soft earth tones and cool grays. These colors create a sense of calmness, in line with the setting of the convent. However, subtle pops of color, such as the vibrant hues of the stained glass windows, or the red background when Mariam and Yosef meet, or the color of Mariam's dress when she finally turned into temptation, serve to emphasize moments of emotional intensity and transformation. The careful use of color reinforces the internal journey Mariam undergoes as she grapples with her desires and faith. Now, let's turn our attention to the confession scene at the end of the movie. This is a powerful moment in the narrative as Mariam confronts the reality of her choices and the consequences of her actions. The scene takes place in a dimly lit confessional where Mariam and Yosef are separated by a lattice screen. The use of chiaroscuro, a technique characterized by strong contrasts between light and dark, is highly effective in the confessional scene. As Mariam and Yosef sit side by side in the confessional booth, the lighting creates pronounced contrasts that reflect their internal conflict. The lattice scene separating them casts intricate shadows across Mariam's face, symbolizing the barriers that exist between her and her desires. This visual barrier is a key aspect of the composition, as it reinforces the separation between their roles and the emotional distance they must maintain. The screen adds visual interest while also creating an atmosphere of secrecy and intimacy within the confessional. Visual weight plays a significant role in the composition of the scene. Mariam, on one side of the lattice, is given a greater sense of visual weight due to her positioning in the frame and the focus on her side facial expressions. The softness of the lighting on her face suggests vulnerability and introspection as she confesses her struggles. Yosef, on the other hand, is positioned on the other side of the lattice, with less visual weight and a shadowed face, emphasizing his role as the listener and confessor. The framing choices enhance the emotional depth of the scene. The close-up shots of Mariam and Yosef allow the audience to observe the subtle nuances of their expressions, conveying the weight of their shared history and the intensity of their current situation. The arrangement within the frame creates a sense of tension and anticipation as the audience watches Mariam grapple with her decisions and seek forgiveness. The director's careful attention to the composition, lighting, and visual weight of the scene elevates its emotional impact. The chiaroscuro technique not only adds visual drama, but also serves to highlight the character's inner conflicts and the solemnity of the moment. This meticulous approach to visual storytelling creates a poignant and memorable conclusion to Mariam's journey, leaving a lasting impression on the audience. So, if you haven't already, please watch Ave Mariam and experience the wonderful world of Ertanto cinematography and the poignant story of Mariam and her forbidden love.